Today we're going to be talking about glimmers in your eyes. I'm back, Virginia! Hello, listless listeners, and welcome back to another episode of the thing that I started a while ago but haven't been very consistent on continuing. Introductions. It's like an early episode of a TV show where it's the first time that the regular intro sequence happens. Today I want to talk about sparks and how they can aid you in creating your own flawless universe in just 8 days. My god. Oh, where to begin? Chapter 1? Sure, why not? Please press pause now and then come back later. Did it work? Didn't think so. Too bad. Any self-respecting Google search will tell you that all good stories have scenes, setting, plot, central conflict, tone, style, theme, structural, character development, character dilemmas, protagonists, antagonists, syntagonists. Is it syntax? Word order? Try again. Since it's just you and some rambly kid on a YouTube blog, I'm gonna take a breath and you're gonna relax. As you write your outlines, don't limit yourself to format. You may be writing something in point form, which then turns into sentences, turns into an entire scene of dialogue. They don't all happen at once. Allow them to pop into your head and run with them as they do. Perhaps in a notebook. Ideas come as they please. Why shouldn't you? Things might get a little messy, things might not go anywhere, but at least you wrote them down. A fair amount of the information you're going to come up with in your outlines won't be told in the final product. This is okay. Background details, character histories, and all that nitty-bitty business are important for you as the author to know and inform your decisions as you're writing. These details may also be important for sussing out what you don't know and maybe need to figure out. This information composes the story as opposed to the plot. Story, which is a word that I'm using a lot here, is the sum total of all the information pertaining to your world and characters' lives from their births to their deaths, as opposed to plot, which is just what your audience ends up seeing of the film, book, anecdote. Very seldomly happens in real time. The epilogue, prologue, time elapses, several jump cuts later. Now it may be a pain in the ass for future you to deal with. That's a problem for future you to worry about. Screw the future! If you hold on to words and ideas for too long, they're nearly guaranteed not to come out the way you want them to the first time anyway. Contrary to the construable points you might be thinking I'm construing, there are major benefits to outlining and planning ahead. It's a shocker, I know. Outlines, treatments, beat sheets, summaries, etc. provide anchors, maps, goals for you to write towards. They are but tools to aid in your writing process and help you consider and understand your work as a whole. More to the less obvious point, you can actually do these kinds of things after you've written a first draft or two. Not necessarily of your whole work, but those scenes and burgeoning ideas that have been inspiring you to write in the first place, get those down. Then look at it from the outside a while later and see what you got. There's no formula and you're not obligated to write in a straight line. Though lined paper does help. Now, an actual method for starting to outline ideas is called the Snowflake method. If you were to imagine a snowflake fractal, you start with the simple triangular details, and then on each of those main details you come up with more details and more details until it compounds and boom, you have a complex story. I'm not really gonna get into it here because Randy Ingermanson's got me covered. He's actually got a full site chock full of advice for how to write novels. Guy's got a pahud, you know he's legit. Going with a string of actual ideas you want to write about, I would recommend from the outset not to set out with a set. I would highly recommend against setting out with a thesis or a message that you want to push forward. Let your own voice come through. Anything else has a habit of getting in the way of natural storytelling. Editing, writing, rewriting will come later and will help you to shape and actualize your story. That is to say, make it become what it is supposed to be. Sometimes when I'm handling little details and elements of my story and I do want to think about themes and patterns I want to draw, I find myself writing almost a personal essay or brain dump of what it is I may or may not be trying to say. It might just end up being 10 pages of word vomit that I never look at again, but the act of physically writing it is cathartic enough to sort out my ideas so that after I have a better idea of what I'm doing, and I continue on. One of my favorite parts of feature screenwriting class was figuring out what the theme of my script was after I'd written a treatment of it. I had the story and characters that I knew and loved, and within them, I found the message. The magic's in you! One of the ways to start doing this from the onset of writing, or all the time, is to ask yourself questions. What do I know about this character? What don't I know about this world? Why? What happens next? How do they get there? Why are they doing these things? What's going on? Where am I? If you don't know the answers to these questions, do you have a question? Do you have something you want to know? Try stabbing it from behind. How don't these characters get to where they're going? Why wouldn't they? What doesn't happen? This is all malleable. If it doesn't sit right, you know you have this one written out thing that for sure doesn't happen. Apocrypha. Keep following your instincts and know that nothing is a waste, even if it feels like it. Remember, everything sucks some of the time. Just keep riding the caffeine wave, Madre. Because the more and more you get stopped up in anxiety and procrastination and not being able to say things just right, the less and less you're gonna actually just write, and that is wrong. Now, I'm not saying hesitation doesn't happen, and I'm not saying not to take your time. Just keep getting it going and see where that going gets you. Try your hand at writing a first draft. This doesn't have to be the beginning of the plot. Hell, write the scenes that you know for sure happen. Write it backwards. As I've been taught about sketching, draw the parts of the subject that you find most inspiring. Keep yourself interested. A page, a beat, a moment, a conversation between two characters, the kinds of ideas that pop into your head and make you want to write in the first place. Sparks, if you will. Make a fire. Big inferno, everybody dies. And that is how you novel. Just remember, amid your puddles of pen blood and piles of pages, to organize it. Color coding, title, boxing, something that's important. Do it for future view. OpenEllbey's actually got a pretty good video about it, and a jillion other writing blogs that are far superior. Check it out below. And you might be wondering, if you follow these steps, will you end up with the perfect first draft? Of course not. Unless it is. I'm not saying this is the perfect way to do things, I'm just saying it's a way to do things. It's a combination of outlining story arcs, weaving them together, and just plain old writing the scene. Things may seem a little bit awkward or strange the first time around. First time's always like that. Boom! That's where experience comes in handy. The last forward motion is not perpetual, unless you're in a vacuum, in which case you have other problems, Marjorie. So don't forget to take breaks. If, say, for a random unscripted example, you take day number 7 in this 8-day work model of making a universe that we haven't really alluded to, you decided to relax and take it easy. Go ahead. The important other half of a break, though, is continuing to work after, so don't not do that. Of course, this is all just retrospective speculation. Without the deadline promise of shiny recognition, or indeed a paycheck at the end of this long, hard tunnel, it's difficult not to try to make it perfect the first time round. Down to the crosses of your T's and the dots of your beady little I's, midwifing the shit out of this thing until you have the perfect opening line. And that is how nothing gets done. You want to know how they say the universe happened? Bang! You think they had any idea what would turn up? No, they just did it and went with it. Don't let the whole 7-day production model fool you. Matter of fact, don't do it. Just write it out and outline it later. Yes, you might make the same errors over and over. Yes, you might make some errors you never thought were possible. Just know that whatever form your universe takes in its early stages, let it happen how it happens. Things could get messy or spilly. Don't forget your towels, kids! And for those crafty ones among you who may be saying, well great, doesn't this video just lead me to a book with a bunch of dialogue-heavy scenes and crappy narration linking it all together? Well, I want you to observe it. That's what editing's for, which is a problem for later. You can still feed those brain crack habits aplenty, baby. Remember, there's more than 1 trillion ways to make a universe. You want to make a flawless one? It's gonna take more than 8 days. And if any of you have questions or curiosities pertaining to universes or just outlines, feel free to yeah? I've also included some links to resources that are probably much more thorough and helpful than mine down there. Have fun.